Welcome to the Content 10X Podcast, the show where content creators learn how to harness the power of content repurposing. And now, your host, Amy Woods.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Content 10X Podcast. I'm your host, Amy Woods, and this week I want to talk to you about identifying your knowledge to action gap when it comes to getting the most from your content. So getting the most value from your content and really maximizing it. So repurposing your content. Now, what do I mean by this? So bear with me. So something that I've been given a lot of thought to recently is how people can be completely aware of something that they should do. So no doubt the knowledge is there, but the issue comes with taking action required as a result of that knowledge to actually get the results that you want. So in other words, you know that you should do something, you know all the reasons why, but you don't do it. And there is this gap that forms between the knowledge and the action. So for example, lots and lots of people know that they should exercise regularly. They know the health benefits and they really don't need to be educated anymore on why. The whole idea and the concept's completely sold to them, but they simply don't do it. So they might buy all the gear for whatever exercise they plan to embark upon, buy the gym gear, buy the cycling equipment or the running accessories. So they even resource up basically, but they still don't actually regularly, consistently exercise. Now, another example is actually for me and drinking more water. So people tell me that I should, I know that I should, I really know that I should drink more water. Even doctors have told me that I should drink more water. Yeah, I'm really, really terrible at drinking more water. Now, the whole knowledge to action gap is really prevalent. Now, this knowledge to action gap is massively prevalent when it comes to content repurposing. So when I talk to people about content repurposing, either at events and conferences, on podcasts that I am a guest on, when I meet people who are, interested in our services, or when I just meet people in general and talk about content, I never really speak to anyone who disagrees with the whole concept of repurposing content. People love the idea, they totally get all of the benefits and think that it's a great thing to do. So I'll speak at events and I'll have people come up to me afterwards and talk to me about my talk on repurposing content. And we might even go into the detail of their content in particular. And I get this resounding positive, big thumbs up to the whole idea and concept of doing it, the benefits. But more often than not, and I'm honestly going to say 90% of the time, if not higher, the people that I talk to about repurposing content, the same people who think it's a great idea and are sold on the concept, always say, do you know, I don't do that enough, or I really know that I should be repurposing my content, but I don't do it at all. And so this massive gap between the knowledge and the actual action taking. Now, if you're listening to this and nodding along thinking this is actually me, what I want you to do is I want you to try and work out what causes the gap for you, the knowledge to action gap for you. So what causes you to not repurpose your content if you know that it is a really great thing to do? So you know that you're sitting on a treasure trove of content that you're not getting the most from because you haven't been repurposing it. Or, you know that you create really great content every single week or multiple times a week, and you're not repurposing it to reach and connect with a much broader audience. And what can you do to bridge that knowledge to action gap to ensure that you do take the action required? Now, it could well be that you don't have resources right now to do all of the repurposing that you'd like to do. And in that case, maybe you could look at changing your processes so that you prioritize repurposing. And what I mean by this is, I'm sure that you're already very busy. I'm sure you fill up all of your time on a daily basis. So when you don't repurpose and you know that you should, it could be a case that you don't prioritize repurposing over something else that you're doing that perhaps you shouldn't be doing. or rather, you shouldn't be putting as much time into to allow some time for repurposing. So have a look at how you could change your priorities. How could you incorporate repurposing into what you do on a working day? This could be, for example, changing the frequency by which you publish new content to allow time for repurposing. So instead of a weekly or twice weekly blog or podcast, video, live stream, you could go to one less. So let's say you go from weekly to every 2 weeks, but use the time that you would put into creating that extra piece of content each week into repurposing that existing piece of content. So that's something that you could do in terms of looking at just prioritizing differently to build repurposing into your weekly routines. If you do have resources available, so you do have some budget and you know that you should be repurposing content, and maybe it's just time to invest. So it's time to take your content to the next level and invest in order to really reach and connect with more people, then look at your options for how you could invest wisely to repurpose your content. Now, it'd be remiss of me right now not to mention getting in touch with us here at Content 10X. So at Content 10X, my business is a very specialist creative agency, and we repurpose content for our clients. So podcast, blog, video, live stream, webinars. So if you want to get in touch with us, then head to content10x.com. and you can find out more about our end-to-end content repurposing service. So this is basically an outsourced content team. We take away management, review, hiring, firing, etc. for our clients and focus on repurposing their content. Now, appreciate you might not have the budget for a fully outsourced content repurposing service, but you maybe do have some budget to hand. So look at where you have a skills gap and where you want to repurpose content. So let's say you really want to create more written content. See if you can find a writer to work with, maybe just on a freelance basis, but finding a writer who you can put that budget to wisely and start to repurpose some of your content in written form. Similarly, perhaps it's graphics that you want help with or video that you want help with. It may be as a small stepping stone, you could use some budget available to work with a freelancer or bring someone on to your team as an employee or fixed term contract, whatever it may be. Either way, really thinking about what is the knowledge to action gap and how can you bridge it is a great first step, and then take one step at a time to address that. Now, it could be that you actually need a tool or a resource to help you take the action and get on track. So I told you that I'm terrible at drinking enough water. I recently bought this water bottle that has these markers on the side, and when you fill it up, basically it shows you the level of water where it needs to be at each point in the day. So you fill it up in the morning, and that takes you up to something like 8 a.m. And then as you drink it, it's going down in the marker. It shows you where it should be at 9, 10, 11, 12. And then when you get to, I think, 2, you have to refill again up to the top. And then it counts down from 2 down to 8 p.m, something like that. But basically the whole idea is that you fill this twice a day, and you just look at it and it tells you exactly where you need to be at water level to be drinking enough water each day. So this is just an example for me actually of purchasing something that gives me a bit of accountability, and it's just a tool that enables me to try and bridge that knowledge to action gap and actually drink. So is there something similar that you need with your content? Is it a project management system, something like Trello or Asana, to just help you track and manage the tasks that you know you should be doing? And if you were just tracking and managing them, then you'd really bridge that knowledge to action gap and start seeing the results that you want with your content repurposing. Do you need to build in accountability? So back to the exercise example, sometimes what we need with exercise to exercise more is to hire a personal trainer or join a group training program, classes, things like that, to bring us that accountability and structure. So do you need a content PT, basically a content trainer, so to speak, coach, but not necessarily a coach or a trainer, but someone to help bring about that accountability? So really my whole point here on this episode is if you always nod along with my advice on content repurposing, because you truly believe that repurposing your content is a great thing to do to really get the maximum value from what you create and to then go on and reach and connect with more people and hopefully get more leads, more conversions and more sales in your business. So you're completely bought into doing it, but you often find that you don't, then work out, well, what causes you to have this gap between the knowledge which is there, but then the action taking, and just try to implement small steps to bridge that gap one step at a time. So thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of the Content 10X podcast. I really do appreciate it. If you like the show and you haven't done so already, I'd love it if you could hit the subscribe button on whichever app you like to listen to. And also, if there's anybody you know who you think could benefit from listening to the Content 10X podcast, then please do give this a share and let them know about the show. If you want to follow me on social media, then it's at Content 10X on all the platforms. I'm really active on Instagram, so please do see me over there if you're on there as well. And all that's left to say is thank you, and I'll catch you in the next episode.